Before I take apologies, I need to mention that the Town Council is recording this meeting in video and sound, which will be published on our website. We may also publish it in other formats. If you're in the Council Chamber during the meeting, you are given permission for us to include you in this recording. So, any apologies for absence?
Yes, Mr Mayor, we've had apologies from Councillor Cash and Councillor Canfield. But I would advise you that I am aware that Councillor Kelly will be late. She is endeavouring to get here, but unfortunately there was an incident on the railway and that's delayed.
That's delayed. So she'll be here if she can?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Any declarations of interest?
Just say I'm a plot holder and communication. I'm a plot holder, communications officer, and webmaster for the South Harpenden Allotment and Garden Society because it sort of features further on in the budget.
Okay.
Yes, I've also got a personal non-pecuniary interest in item 7.4 on the budget as a trustee for the East Harpenden Gardening Club and allotment holder.
Thank you.
I have a personal pecuniary interest in item 7.4, East Harpenden Gardening Club as a plot holder.
Thank you. We'll note those. Now, Mayor's report. Since the last council, I've attended several events, including the Scout Game Show, which is extremely good, and all their performances were sold out. And this morning I attended an Episcopal ordination at Westminster Cathedral, which was also quite spectacular. Essentially they were installing, if that's the right word, 2 bishops, one of whom will be covering Hertfordshire, putting it into non-church terms. Quite impressive. One of the nice things about being mayor is that you meet lots of people, and I wouldn't normally be having a conversation with a cardinal in my whole life. So it's all very good. My final charity event is a film night taking place at the Public Halls on Friday, February the 5th. The film is The 100-Foot Journey. Tickets cost £7.50. and your support would be appreciated. Later this year, it will be the Queen's 90th birthday, and we think it's appropriate that we should celebrate this event in some way. I know, certainly in the town, I know there's going to be several street parties, including one in my road. So what we've done is just formed quickly a working party to involve people, not just councillors, but local people, like, for example, the Harpenden Trust and the Play Areas Working Group people who've come up with some good ideas in the past for charity events. So we're going to have a preliminary meeting tomorrow, but I would encourage all councillors to submit ideas for consideration, and we'll take a look at them. We're thinking we might do perhaps a joint effort with the Rotary Club, who've got some ideas for an event, etc. So if you've got any ideas, we'd like to hear them, please. Now, back in 2013, the Town Council awarded the freedom of the town to the Royal Anglian Regiment. It's customary for the regiment to exercise this freedom by marching through the town, quotes, with drums beating and colours flying, unquote. Because of the overseas commitments of the regiment, it hasn't been possible to arrange this before now, but we are arranging the parade for Tuesday the 12th of April this year. That's basically the only date that they can do, because they have quite a lot of ceremonial events, including laying up standards, and obviously the Anglian Regiment covers a huge area of the country, and it will be at noon. So if you'd like to pop that into your diaries. And I've got another confidential item which I'll cover under exempt business with the rest of the blue stuff. Okay, do we have any public questions in accordance with Standing Order 64? No, not. Item 5, do we have any questions which have previously been submitted by members of the council?
No.
No, thank you. In that case, we can move on to item 6, which is to confirm the minutes of the council held on the 30th of November 2015, which were circulated. Can I take those as a true record?
Agreed.
That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. That was unanimous.
Madam, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
I put my apologies in, so it wasn't unanimous, was it? Because I wasn't here, so I couldn't say the minutes were okay.
Oh, well.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Unanimous minus 1. Okay, thank you. So, can I have initial?
I'm afraid you have to initial all pages, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right, so we now move on to item 7, which is minutes of committees and working parties reporting to the council. 7.1, planning A committee.
Chair, I'm pleased to present to Council the minutes of the Planning A Committee held on the 8th of December. There were no recommendations to Council.
Thank you very much. The minutes are noted.
Yes.
7.2, planning B committee.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the minutes of the Plans B committee that we held on the 24th of November and the 21st of December. I don't think there's anything to carry forward.
No recommendations.
No.
Thank you very much. Those minutes are noted. 7.3, the environment committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to present the minutes of the Environment Committee meeting held on the 18th of November. There are no recommendations to Council.
Anything else, Paul?
On page 43, there was a decision at the Environment Committee not to run the Food and Drink Festival. I think it also reoccurs, you might say, on page 55 of the Policy and Finance, not page 55, page 51, where it's agreed, this is DF, I'm jumping ahead, it's agreed this will be revisited at the next council meeting when the minutes of the Environment Committee were presented. If there's any debate, I'm not asking for debate, if there is one, do we have it now or later at PNF minutes?
Well, it's entirely up to you, but I would suggest probably having it now.
Very well. Councillor Heritage, were you indicating?
Sorry, the...
Sorry, were you indicating you wanted to speak?
No,
Oh,
I was
sorry.
playing with my pen.
You're just
Sorry.
waving your pen around.
Sorry, I apologise.
Thank you. Does anybody want to discuss that item? It's on page 43, 32, 11.5.
I'll say one quick thing, reason why I highlighted it. I thought it was a decision which should probably been made by or ratified by the council, because it affected the whole council and the town as opposed to the Environment Committee. Sorry, Mr. Smith. But if it's, I'm happy with as is, but all it needs is an area.
Yeah, well, I think the reason's fairly clear. I mean, it had very limited. It was very well attended this year, extremely well attended. But the trouble is, there's so little support from local retailers. That's the problem. There were only, how many was it? 6 turned up, which is pretty disappointing. It's only a very small part of the. And the man who got his name, who with the Harpenden Society, who's
Ron Taylor.
Ron Taylor. He's been trying to do things with local retailers and has explained those things to us. You know, like developing things like a sort of a Harpenden brand, you know, which wouldn't cost very much money, but there's just been extremely limited support for that, and he's kind of given up. And the advantage, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, I think the advantage of having, you know, one of these French or German markets that they do in St Albans is A, it will be a change, and B, you know, there might be some contribution towards council's funds from doing that. I think that's the rationale. I don't think want to add anything.
Yes, if I may, yes, that's definitely part of it. The very poor response from local retailers, the fact that it's the St Albans and Harpenden event, and yet St Albans district do not give us any financial aid, and they also give very limited publicity. And I think you have to bear in mind, or the Environment Committee rightly bore in mind, the hours that's spent by the officers putting into creating this event. The last one cost us in excess of £3,000, and by holding a French or German market later this year, they will actually give us, albeit not very much, it's about £250 per day, but it's income coming in rather than going out. So it was a whole complete package.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I felt in a difficult position here because obviously I've always promoted and wanted to see anything that could boost the vitality of the town centre in any way, and that means one of the big things is having events and promoting events such as the carnivals and that sort of thing. But I have to say, I go along with this one. What is the benefit to the town if the retailers are not picking up the benefit themselves? There's the cost angle, but I did go along because with this on the basis that we would run something we haven't done before, and I don't think, the French market, and that is going to be done at a nice time just in late summer, and I think that will be novel. It will be for hopefully, because I'm speaking in advance actually, hopefully it'll be for 2 days. It'll coincide or just precede the farmers market. So I go along with this, even though in all other circumstances I was averse to see an event that promotes something for the town centre.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you. I guess I think we'll just leave it at that and move on. Okay, so we can move the minutes to the Environment Committee on the 18th of November. Thank you very much. Now move on to 7.4, the Policy and Finance Committee. Councillor Maynard.
I'm pleased to present to Council the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee held on the 9th of December 2015. There are 3 recommendations to Council. If you move to minutes, it's up to 2.7.2. You'll recommend to Council that Harpenden Town Council agrees to opt in to the sector-led body for the procurement of external audit services.
Yes, so that sounds like a good idea to me. Presumably that's going to help us tap into external expertise at a reasonable cost.
Yes.
That seems a sensible idea to me. Can I put that recommendation to the Council? All in favour? Thank you very much. That was
Unanimous.
I think that was unanimous.
Yep.
Thank you.
Moving on, the committee recommends to Council that the investments as detailed by the financial officer be approved, and that's on minutes up to 3.2.
Thank you. Can I put that way?
No, agreed.
Okay, hang on. So it's people waving pens and fingers, confusing. Councillor Heritage, were you indicating again?
Oh,
No?
no. I'll put my pen.
Right, can I put that recommendation to the Council, 33.2? All in favour?
Put a pen down.
Put a pen down.
Unanimous?
We recommend to Council that the action of the Town Clerk in writing off several debts be approved in accordance with financial regulations. That's on minute 33.4.2.
Any questions on that? Very well. Can I put that recommendation to the Council, please? All in favour? Thank you. Unanimous?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would now like to present to Council the minutes of the Policy and Finance Committee meeting held on the 13th of January 2016. There are several recommendations to Council coming out of that meeting, and one item which the committee asked if Council could possibly discuss, and since the meeting we've had more information which I will present to you tonight. I will go through in order. If we take the issue of Town Councillor allowances, minute 41.5.2, the committee recommends to Council that members' allowances be increased from £300 to £360 per annum with effect from the 9th of May 2016. It's my understanding that allowances have not been increased for some time, and this is just to take into account inflation over the last few years.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's important we should do this because whilst I don't take the allowance personally, I do know that some people need the allowance to cover expenses, and I wouldn't want to discourage people on limited incomes from becoming councillors. So I think that would be my rationale. We have a clear situation at the District Council, for example, where one of our councillors, who's very good, is a bus driver, limited income, but for the allowance that he gets, he wouldn't be able to be the councillor. He'd have to keep, do an extra shift or whatever to do that. And we don't want to discourage people like that from becoming councillors. So I'd like to make that recommendation to council. Can we, all in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
We recommend to Council that the review of internal control and internal audit be approved. I'll take both of these together. And that the level of the Town Council's fidelity guarantee insurance of £2 million be agreed. And the justification for each of these is in your notes.
Thank you. Can we put that recommendation to Council, please? All in favour? Thank you. Unanimous?
It is at this point, Mr Mayor, that I would like to pick up minute 42.1.2. I will be unable to debate this if anyone wants to debate it, because I have a personal and financial interest in this matter. But I will provide you with the information that the East Harpenden Gardening Club has indicated reserves of £13,244 in cash as at the 31st of March 2015, and they also have assets of £10,500 worth of stock at that date. And I will leave it to you whether you wish to debate this, but I must leave what you do.
Well,
the question under consideration was whether East Harpenden and South Harpenden both have an annual sum of money awarded from the council.
that's a grant.
That's a grant, and the proposal was that East Harpenden's but not South Harpenden's grant be increased by £500 this year.
Well, I mean, given the level of resources of East Harpenden Gardening Club, it doesn't seem a good idea to give them more grant. It just seems, I think in the long term, we're hoping that the gardening societies will be self-sustaining. I think that's a long-term aspiration. So I don't think it's reasonable, given those at Scale Resources that we should increase their grant by £500. Does anybody else have any comments?
I think Councillor Martin and I should leave at this
All
point.
right. All right. Right. Thank you. Any comments, Councillor Paul?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, obviously it's just a one-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think in the minutes it did actually it will do the items remaining in the list of new items to be considered further after the requested information had been obtained. Have we got any more information?
Well,
The set of accounts.
if the accounts that Councillor Maynard referred to, the fact that we weren't aware at the time when the original application for grant funding, which was increased by £500, was made, we weren't aware of their reserves, and subsequently we now are. And that's what's been reported to you. So they're asking for an additional sum with £13,200 odd as a reserve.
Playing devil's advocate a bit here, would you expect to use reserves for that, or would that be for something more serious, you might say? This is tidying up, isn't it, basically, what they asked for?
Yeah, I mean, it is a case of, they've got the capacity to manage their affairs within their existing budget. It is very much like what is going to happen later on this evening when you are considering setting your budget. Some of that is being supported by using reserves, so that you're not presetting on your residents.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I remember discussing this when it first came up at the Environment Committee and being one of the councillors who's unusually spendthrift in my ways at that meeting. I think it's always good as a town council that's always been prudent with its funds to have the kind of financial wherewithal to be able to do the extra things that I think make Harpenden a good place to live and provide extra facilities and services to our residents. However, when this was discussed with reference to both allotment sites, it was on the basis of identified need and on the basis that we required further financial information. I think an organisation that's got over 13,000 in reserves is an organisation doing rather healthily indeed. And I think in an era where we talk about declining volunteer support, declining financial support from people in the community, I think that actually does stand out as rather a healthy financial situation to be in. It doesn't preclude us, if something were dreadful were to happen, like a huge flood there or something, it doesn't preclude us from investing considerably more than, for instance, 500. But I think in this case, the most appropriate thing would be to follow your suggested course of action and to remove the increase of 500 as a one-off item from the budget.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Could I just say before we will maintain our existing grants, it's just that we're not increasing it.
Right, Mr Mayor. I was going to say that at the meeting we really struggled to find what they were actually going to spend the money on. That was part of the problem. And also, I should say I am a member of the South Harpenden Garden Club.
This just relates to East.
But basically, though, they increased their member subscriptions to enable them to meet their needs, and so they're quite good at managing their finances, really. So
yeah, and I think the subscriptions to these garden associations or allotment associations are quite low, aren't they?
No, yes.
Did you?
Well, Chair, I just wanted to add that in my capacity as a county councillor for Harpenden North East, I was approached by the gardening club for a grant. My understanding at the time was that they wanted a grant in order to provide some storage facilities, and there was the prospect of having a container put on one of their sites. Now, I refused the grant. In part because of the sort of financial situation of the club, but also it was rather premature in that I felt that there was incumbent on the club, firstly, getting the approval of the freeholder in order to put this container on the site, and indeed whether there was an issue of requiring planning consent or not. So I think that may explain why some of the funding was required, but certainly I personally felt it was rather premature to be making a grant to them out of my locality budget. And I support the decision that's been taken by the council in this recommendation in relation to what they've asked for from the council, town council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, I think the club has to be congratulated for doing so well. Shall we say it's sustainable, but I cannot see in this current economic climate, and when we are looked at very carefully by residents and think that any increase in the thing would be justified at all.
Any other comments?
Do we know what the money is for? Is it just to top up their original grant, or is it for a specific item of machinery or the container? Do we know anything further?
In support for provision of additional equipment in order to tidy up sites. That's what.
So if we were to ask for additional information on what the equipment and how much it costs, then we'd have a fair idea, because equipment is quite expensive. They have to, match fund their, amount from, reserves.
Yes, but it's only a £500 increase, and they got, £13,000 in reserves. So, I think the proposal is that we will maintain our existing grant. What is it? How much is that?
Off the top of my head, I think it's something like £2,300. Yes? It's over 2,000.
So, that's a fair amount. Well, I think we've discussed this a fair amount. Shall we just put this to the vote? Okay, so what I'm going to propose is
the one-off growth item on page 60 at EN9.
Yes.
Not be included in the budget.
Thank you for that. Okay. So all in favour of that, please, can indicate. Thank you. One. Against? One against. Okay, thank you. Okay, we can ask the colleagues to join us. Okay, just to inform the two colleagues, we decided not to increase the grant by £500.
Sorry, I'm going to have a very interesting meeting. Okay. Right. Moving on. We're moving on to the main item for the evening, the Harpenden Town Council budget for 2016-17. It was resolved to recommend to Council that the Harpenden Town Council budget for 2016-17 be agreed at £929,350, and this represents no increase in the Band D equivalent council tax of £67.52. And I would like to just say a few words about the budget. The budget I am presenting represents a zero increase for the 8th year on the council tax paid by residents, which I think is something this council should be very proud of. The committee is recommending that the Band D council tax set for Harpenden Town Council remains at only £67.52, and this represents less than 5% of the total Band D tax paid by Harpenden residents. The Finance Committee and I have examined the levels of income and expenditure as a result of a thorough line-by-line scrutiny and continued careful management of the Council's finances during this current year. Whilst the Council has been subject to exactly the same inflationary pressures that every household in the town has experienced, the Council through judicious planning, careful management and scrupulous analysis of the Council's finances has achieved the position that I am delighted to report. And I would like actually at this point to divert slightly from the original script and just say a congratulations to Mr Bagshaw and his team, who are the executive management of the Town Council and who are the ones who really are managing the Town Council's business on a day-to-day basis and should be congratulated on what they've achieved over the last 7 years.
We'll put that in the minutes. Thank you.
Our budget is a forward planning budget based on the needs of local residents, the welfare of the town and the aspirations that are constantly evident. It includes additional one-off items of expenditure for new initiatives totalling £103,000. And so not only are we running efficient services, we continue to invest in new facilities and new events for the town. And some of these include renewing and upgrading the play and leisure facilities at the Westfield Recreation Ground, a project which is currently ongoing. And all you purists won't like that word. Providing a new headquarters for the Bradford Springs volunteers who do a fantastic job in helping the Town Council manage the local nature reserve. And we are making funds available, and I read them tonight, to celebrate the Queen's 90th birthday, which is an amazing landmark in her reign. We're replacing notice boards and dilapidated bus shelters around the town. We're relocating and providing additional cycle stands in the High Street, and we're providing new welcome signs and interpretation boards at Bradford Springs. And we hope that this year we produce as good a Christmas light show as we did last year. It was very much appreciated by our residents and much commented on. During 2015 and 16, the Council concluded negotiations for the purchase of Marquis Lane Meadow and the existing land and headquarters associated with the Bradford Springs Volunteers. These two acquisitions were achieved without having to borrow any money and place any debt on the Town Council, so they were funded entirely from our reserve. Indeed, as mentioned earlier, I'm looking, and the committee is looking to invest in the provision of a replacement headquarters for the derelict facility the volunteers have to contend with, but not only that, in the meadow to provide a secure environment for the local nature reserve to flourish. I believe this council is based upon the principle of progress and anticipation so that everybody can benefit from the facilities, activities and services that the Town Council provides without feeling they are being penalised through unnecessary and profligate expenditure beyond their means. It is set against the backdrop of a general reserve that stands at £702,000. The fact that I can report that I expect to transfer approximately £100,000 into earmarked reserves to manage future obligations, objectives and needs demonstrates the caring and considerate management of the Council. Mr Mayor, I ask members to approve the 2016-17 budget of £929,350, representing a Band D Council tax equivalent of 6762, a figure with which I conclude you will be all extremely familiar with, as you have set exactly this amount of council tax for the last 7 years, and it represents no increase in tax. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions on the budget recommendation or any points people want to raise? Silent. I think it is a good budget, and it's pretty good that we're not increasing our council tax rate for the 8th year in a row. It's quite impressive. It's well done. So, can I put that recommendation to the council that this is 42.1.4. That the Harpenden Town Council budget for 2016-17 be agreed at £929,350, representing no increase in plan D, equivalent town council tax at £67.53. All in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous.
Moving on, the committee would like to recommend to Council that the medium term, that is the 3 to 5 year, financial plan is approved alongside the 2016-17 report.
Thank you very much. Any questions on 42.2.2, the medium term plan? Very well. Can we recommend to Council that the medium-term 3 to 5 year financial plan is approved alongside the budget 2016-17 report? All in favour, please? Thank you very much. That's unanimous again. Okay, I'd like to present the minutes of the Strategic Planning Committee meeting held on the 9th of December last year, and there are no recommendations to Council. I do have an update though. So I assume those can be noted. Thank you. Since that meeting, I can report that we held a further meeting on the 21st of January. We've received some interesting advice from our consultants, and we'll be preparing a response to the draft strategic local plan for the district. That's a very limited consultation. It's just a question of whether we think the plan is sound in law and in planning law. I think that's a loose way of describing it, but it's a very limited consultation. In addition, the spatial planning team at District provided us with details of some possible small-scale sites, several in the Greenbelt, which could be considered in the District local plan, which is the sort of the next step along from the strategic local plan. The number of houses on these sites would be in addition to, and not in substitution for, Site 5, which is the broad site on the north side of Harpenden. So you'll be getting details of all of those sites. They're being circulated for information. We're not under any magic sort of deadline for this. It's months rather than weeks. Also, one other interesting thing that came up, those of you at District who've received a background briefing note on the Housing and Planning Bill 2016, which we're going to be discussing a motion on tomorrow evening. The interesting thing about that is national planning policy is going to be amended so that neighbourhood plans, which we're working on, ours, can allocate appropriate small-scale sites in the Greenbelt specifically for starter homes. Okay, so more sort of power is being downstreamed towards us. So we need to think about those sites and see what we want to do about that. But that's not an immediate issue. That's for the future. So I just wanted to provide us with that. That's where we've got to. Okay. Item 8, officers' reports.
Yes, Chair, this refers to the municipal calendar, which has been sent out of where you've all got copies. Yes? Yes. Yes. There are a couple of occasions where we were given the calendar for the district council only within the last sort of week or so, which has proved to be extremely challenging because there are clashes inevitably, and so we are proposing to make a couple of changes, but not many, because at the end of the day, I'm afraid you're going to have to make those decisions amongst yourselves, those who are twin-hatted. If it conflicts with your attendance at the meeting here, then you're going to have to sort that out amongst yourselves, because of course you can use substitutes, so there shouldn't be any particular problems as long as it doesn't clash with council, which I don't believe that is the case. So really, there's not a great deal to add. I'm just asking members to approve the calendar of meetings and the amendments that have been recommended as a consequence of one rescheduled clash with the Environment Committee.
Thank you. Any comments on the schedule? Councillor Paul.
Just the final one now, or is there another one after?
Well, we'll only do the one change, which is the Environment Committee, which will need to move, which is currently on the 18th of May, I believe. We're looking to move that to the...
25th.
Sorry, yes, that's... yes, scheduled for the 20th. It's to be rescheduled to the 18th of May, I beg your pardon, yes. So it's on your it's on your version at the moment of the 25th. It needs to be moved. But that's the only one that we're proposing to move.
Any comments on those, or can we just note that? Okay, thank you very much. Right, now move on to item 9, exempt business. So I'll have to ask Councillor to leave us.